Yeah, so I guess we talked a little bit. Like we would took a lot of high like level kind of gameplay talk with Cam on Monday, but we didn't really get into like the nitty gritty of like how did we get here? How did we get to a position where Riley wins HOH, Mickey successfully uses her power to dethrone his HOH, and then she decides to nominate and evict Jimmy, who was one of her closest allies in the house. What series of events led us here? And I know you're coming to this podcast for an explanation, but I swear to God, I do not have one. There is no cogent explanation that can be given. Like I can tell you the series of events that happened, but
yeah, let's go through the blow by blow here.
Sure.
So we wake up, and we're like,
we have to go back to week 2, I think, to set the stage.
Okay, all right.
Because like,
oh boy,
nothing that happened this week mattered to any of the decision. So let's talk about why. Like, if we're going to try to apportion any amount of blame to Jimmy here, I think that the most obvious thing that you can point to as to why he got evicted this week that was his fault was how he handled his HOH week 2.
Okay. And how he didn't really include triple threat in his decision making. Yeah.
Yeah. Which we criticized at the time. Like, that was something that we talked about on the podcast, how he was using that HOH as a way to try to butter up to Kat and Lauren in particular, which is a relationship we also talked about afterwards, relationships that he didn't really continue to nurture in a way that actually mattered within the game. I think the phrase that I used when describing his HOH afterwards was like he lit one bridge on fire while half building another one. So he ended up down half a bridge by the end of the week. And I think that like what we see play out this week is the result of him only having half a bridge to work with. I think you're muted, Brian. Yeah.
Oh man. So I think, obviously it's unfortunate. And like, yeah, he definitely should have been like more on top of it, but I just don't see what Mickey sees in the people that she's decided to stab Jimmy and Rachel also in the back for. Like, that's the real disconnect for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there is a good explanation, Ben.
I think it's a combination of Morgan has a level of blind loyalty to Zach and Vince that is really hard to describe because they're not really showing it on the episode. They're not like they leaned into the Morgan, Lauren, Zach love triangle stuff, but they haven't really like shown the level of control that Vince has over multiple people's games, but in this particular case, Morgan's game, where Morgan spends a large percentage of the week advocating for decisions that are best for exclusively Vince's game. And I think that like without really having that background of like Morgan is the one pushing this on Vince's behalf, the show has like kind of taken this sidestep and are trying to act like Vince was the one that was really pulling the strings here, when in reality, Vince didn't even know what was going on with the nomination up until like really close to before it happened. And it was all kind of just Morgan acting on his behalf. So I think that like we saw Mickey and Morgan had like their falling out, but the show never really gave us the context of them coming back together as a duo. And they kind of just like yada yada over that into this week. So I think that's really the issue, right? Is like Mickey is capitulating to Morgan's beliefs. Morgan is playing on behalf of primarily Zach and Vince. And in that process, Jimmy is basically the collateral damage to like make Morgan put herself into that position. Whether that's a good thing or not, I mean, we're gonna find out, I guess. But I don't think it's particularly smart. But we'll see if it at least plays out positively for Morgan. So I don't know if that helped at all.
That definitely did. And like, I've tried to be kind of even-handed when I've made like TikToks and stuff
Mhm.
on this week, where it's like, I don't think this is a good move. Maybe it will work out. Maybe down the line, Mickey will, have everything break right, and this will be a good move. We can't officially say it's a bad move yet, but it has all the makings of something that could be disastrous.
Well, I think it's a bad move. I think that if it turns out okay, it would be.
Ben's like, no, we can't.
No, I mean, like there are scenarios where it turns out okay, right? Like if like Zach wins this coming up HOH, like, and he doesn't put Mickey on the block because she made this move, right? Like, then we're gonna look back at it and be like, oh, it was okay, right? It's similar to like Lauren last week, right? Lauren's HOH was a complete mess, but because of like the way that the HOH, like Lauren's HOH was a mess, but like it was a mess because she didn't accomplish anything with it. And at best, right now, she's basically like one of Vince's lackeys that he like manipulates for his own needs when he like feels the need to, and otherwise she's completely irrelevant in the house. But like that could be a positive position to be in, right? Like that could drag her down to the final 5, but it's eliminated basically all of her win equity. So like it's kind of a similar situation with Mickey, right? Where like this might work out in a way where she isn't targeted in the near future, and she is able to kind of like ride this position down towards the end game. But like I really think that she's kind of pissed away a lot of her ability to have actual agency in the game. Like if she succeeds further in the game, it'll just be because circumstances around her have worked out, like luckily for her, and not because she's actually put herself in a position where she can make decisions.
It just feels like she made this move like 6 weeks too early. Like maybe like if you did this later in the game, it would be better, because obviously I think in the end Jimmy would probably win over Mickey, maybe, but again, it's way too early to tell. But I don't know. I think eventually Morgan and Mickey would get Jimmy out regardless, but it just feels way too early. Like kind of just a waste of a power that everyone knew except Riley that she had anyway. So I don't know. That's how I feel about it. I just think it needed to be done, but way too early.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna say, like, it's definitely a big move to do. Will it matter on September 28th? Like on August 7th, it's a big move, sure. But we got a lot of game left, and a lot of big moves hopefully are coming, and a lot of games left regardless. Whereas like I don't know how much people are going to care about this in the end game,
Yeah, if we're talking about this strictly as like a resume thing or whatever, which I think is like dumb regardless usually. Like this, like you said, Brian, nobody's going to remember this. Like there's like so much game to play. This is not going to be like a deciding factor within a jury vote. Like, oh my God, but remember in week 4, Mickey took out Jimmy. That was such a huge move. Like that really set her up for the game. It's like, okay, but like, what did she do from weeks 5 through 12? And if the answer is like kind of just like float along while her alliance like maneuvered around her, then like that's not really a compelling story. But I think more importantly than like how taking out Jimmy was bad, I think the bigger thing that kind of is getting glossed over because of like how bad like Jimmy in particular was as a target is her not utilizing this HOH to take a shot at Vince, which was like, in my opinion, if she wanted to make a move to like put on her resume and like position herself better, Vince was that move. And it's very weird that like a bunch of people approached her and said that they would want Vince to get targeted. And her response was, but Vince has so many friends that wouldn't vote him out. And it's like, well, but there's like 3 or 4 people coming to you like, hey, I would like you to target Vince. So like that's not really like that's not actually the reason, right? When Mickey is saying there are people there are like so like Vince has so many friends who would be upset, what she's really saying is Vince is friends with Morgan and Morgan would be upset. That's like the subtext to what she's kind of like alluding to. It's not like that the house would be upset at her for taking a shot at Vince. It's that Morgan would be upset at her for taking a shot at Vince. And like, if she can't sell it to Morgan, then she can't do it. And she tried to sell it to Morgan. They had multiple conversations about it. But Morgan always fought back against it. And I think the fact that Mickey has capitulated to what Morgan wanted, and what Morgan did was spend all of her social capital capitulating to what Vince wanted without even like him being involved at all, demonstrates that neither of them have the capacity to play in a self-serving manner. Like they think they're playing kind of self-interestedly, but they're playing like they're making self-destructive moves on behalf of other people. And they're like kind of rationalizing that as playing selfishly when they're not really. So that's kind of like the way that I see this, like even being worse than just she targeted Jimmy was her ally. It was a fundamental misunderstanding of both the structure of the house and the like actions she took within it in order to try to move herself forward in the game.
Yeah, she gives all the power to the Zach and Vince alliance, and then Mickey completely takes away her own kind of leverage, and Morgan kind of thinks she wins, but it's really Vince's win in the end. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I would say that, yeah. But like she even kind of realizes this to a degree because she's talked now in the last day or two about how, she's talked with like Ava, she's talked with like Will, like, hey, we have to target Vince next week. And it's like, okay, like you've come to that conclusion eventually, but like at this point, like who's the we? The we could have been you now, right? Like this is like the whole idea of like it's too soon in Big Brother, and this is like kind of a like a larger like strategy idea with people in Big Brother, where on Survivor, if you have a majority, you can control the vote but like basically indefinitely, as long as you maintain that majority and like you don't turn on your immediate allies and within that majority. Like you could just keep on voting people out as long as they don't win immunity. So like the idea of timing on Survivor makes a lot of sense because you can more firmly control the timing of the eliminations. On Big Brother, that's not the case. The like cadence of the game is decided way more strictly by who's winning the competitions, and trying to like perfectly line up like how the players in the season are doing, like perfectly line up these people I want in jury. I'm going to evict Rachel in exactly 9th place. Like, we need Ashley out in 11th place because she can't make the jury, but we can't do it next week because we need to do Vince next week. So we got to do Ashley in 11th. You cannot control the game. Like even if you have a majority of the house, even if you have like a 7-person majority alliance, you cannot firmly control the cadence of the game to that degree, like guaranteed. Like the committee did in BB22 because they.
I was going to say, unless you're the committee.
Yes, the committee did it in BB22 because they won every comp, because they were a 6/7-person alliance that won literally every single comp the entire season. But like, that's an anomaly. Like you can't expect to do that. Yeah. So like. You can't, like, especially in modern Big Brother, or like the Big Brother we've seen the last 2 seasons, where the comps are pretty fucking random. Like you can't guarantee that you and your people are going to win the comps that you need to make the moves in the time that you want to make them. So you have to take the power and like take the shots when you have the chance. You can't be like, oh, it's too early, because you don't know if you're going to have another chance to do it in like the perfect, time like that you want to, like you've calculated it out.
Yeah. Also with the blockbuster, like that just throws another wrench. Like I fully agree. Take the shots when you got them, and if you fail, have a decent backup plan.
Yep, you just got to hope that the shot's the right shot, Because Mickey took a shot this week, but I don't think we believe that it is the right one.